Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another live stream CMAS podcast. I'm Richard Maxwell from the Arcadia High School Creative Musical Arts and Science program, and I am here with a senior CMAS student, somebody that we have known for quite some time. This is Oriana, and how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad you decided to join me on this. I'm glad we get a chance to chat a
Me
little bit.
too.
How are you? Let's start before we get into your sort of creative process journey, which is primarily what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's let me move this a little bit. Nobody needs to see lights and stuff. That's more. There we go. That looks better. I don't know. I don't have the cool background like you do.
I
I
know.
have
Fancy.
yeah, and we're gonna get to why that's up there too in a minute. But before we do, how are you holding up in all of this? The shutdown, the stuff.
I've been doing pretty good. I have a daily schedule for myself, which is really nice and it's really helpful. And I know that everyone's saying that and they're all like, make yourself a schedule. And everyone's like, yeah, whatever. But it actually does work.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
been nice to be able to have time to do my schoolwork because before I was always so busy. So, it's really
Sure.
nice to be able to sit down and actually get stuff done.
Okay, that's fair. Not going too stir crazy, not going too yeah.
No,
Good. I don't want to
surprisingly.
jinx it. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to cause you to suddenly lose that advantage. No, that's cool. That's good to know. So let's let's start at the beginning maybe, and we'll just kind of see. First of all, you have been a part of this music program now for 4 years.
Yes.
Um, and I'm glad that you stuck it through, and there's a whole lot. Your senior class, beyond just this experience that you are either having or maybe not having, depending on how you view it. Your senior class has been a really, really great. All the classes have always been wonderful, but there were just so many of you, and so many of you that went through all 4 years and did a lot, um, and 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 made a lot of things happen. Um, let me start with this. Where do you feel like you started? Like, if you can remember all the way back to freshman year.
I do. So, my freshman year, I was supposed to be going to ASA downtown. And then 2 weeks before school started at Arcadia, I decided that I wanted to switch and go to a public school and have a public high school experience. So I made the switch really fast. And then I remember I was sitting there. I was planning on doing like dance and theater. Those were going to be my two electives. And then I was sitting there in the registration room and they like showed the CMAS video. And I remember looking at my mom and I was like, that is the coolest thing that I have ever seen. And so I automatically put it onto my thing. And it's interesting to see where I've come since freshman year because I went in more as a songwriter, wanting to like just perform and stuff. And
Mhm.
now I'm like, I love doing the like producing music.
Sure.
And
And
yeah.
and that no, that's true. And I mean, to be fair, you still write,
Hmm.
you still create. Um, I think you found sort of your own little niche though in on the production side.
Hmm.
And I mean, we've talked about this frequently over the years. There is a reality to the economics of it. There's more money to be made, and there's certainly, not that you couldn't be a successful performer or writer. I don't mean
Hmm.
it that way, but just in terms of sheer job opportunities and in terms of just ability to make a living.
Yeah. And it's not like I'm going to stop making music if I go
No,
into this.
and
I'll
nor
still
and
be
nor
creating
should
my own music, but
right. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that I can't think of a single successful producer who doesn't have stories about their own journey of making music, or they were in a band or this or that. And whether the band went anywhere or not is almost irrelevant. There's something about um something about the interaction, the direct understanding, the empathy, I guess you could say. Um, you know, uh, Not to sound silly, but it's one of the reasons why I kind of have you guys go through a little bit of everything, which I know sometimes early on drives you crazy because you're like, I don't want to I'm not gonna do that. But I think it's
Hmm.
important that you understand how it all works. And then obviously in your case, I feel like it kind of you're sort of like one of my proof of concept people. Well, because I think it helped. I think we're gonna get to what you're headed to after graduation, and I think that your work with me, I genuinely feel like was only a tiny part of that more complicated puzzle. But I do think that by kind of introduce the one thing I will claim, I guess, is I feel like we did help at least in the sense of opening up possibilities of like there's more than one way to approach things.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think that I would be going into like music technology if it wasn't for CMAS, because CMAS like introduced me to all of that stuff.
Sure. I
So
appreciate that. Makes me feel good.
yeah.
Let me ask you this. Why don't you tell us about why is that picture, that backdrop there? Let's talk about what you're going to be doing.
Well, I'm going to be going to NYU in the fall, and I'll be studying music technology, hopefully with a double major in computer science and a minor in business. That's the hope. I still need to talk to my academic counselor about that.
Okay.
Um, but
I can't imagine you won't be able to do that, but wow, that's a lot. But smart. I mean, certainly the business thing is
mhm.
a smart one. I mean, all of that is you're going to be in good shape when you get out of there. That's for
Yeah, and then I'm hoping NYU has an accelerated master's program for their music tech, so you can get your master's in 5 years. So hopefully I'll be able to do that, and I'll be applying for that my junior year of college.
Okay, very cool. Well, we'll look forward to some updates on how that all
Yes.
goes. So let me ask you this because I do know, I mean, I know some of the backstory,
Hmm.
but just for the sake of why we're here. So you go through the high school experience, the ups and downs of all of that, and at some point you decided this is where I'm putting my future. Was
Yeah,
there do you remember a moment when that all of a sudden kind of locked in for you?
I do. So I always knew that I wanted to go into something that would help other people in some sort of way. So like when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a veterinarian. I always wanted to do something to help other people. And I think that this is definitely a field where you go through and you help other people like make their music come to life. And I think that that's really cool. That I clearly remember sophomore year when we went to Nashville and we went to Blackbird and we walked into that room. I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
That's
And you
cool.
can
Yeah,
ask my mom about that. She got a text like 5 minutes into when we were at Blackbird with like a picture of
that's really
everything.
funny.
And I was like,
I'm
this is
gonna
it.
I will have to let the folks at Blackbird know that they will be very pleased. But I can appreciate that because I remember when we walked into that room the first time and you're kind of like, oh
It
my
was
goodness.
incredible.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's just because I'm just curious. So you walk into Blackbird, you're a sophomore, um, which in some ways is like no time at all has gone by since, and then in other ways,
Oh, yeah.
that's forever ago. So I guess what I'm wondering is when you walked into that room, what do you feel like? Like, was there a connection to what you'd already been doing? Was it just, I mean, I, I should try to find an image of Blackbird online while we're talking here because I mean, I've been there and as like you said, I mean, it is kind of hard not to be sort of like, oh my goodness.
Hmm.
But I'm wondering, like, what about was there something you walked in kind of already? And I'm not looking for like false praise of the program. I just mean like, how did you know beyond just all this looking at all the stuff and going, well, that looks really cool? Or was it just something as simple as it just kind of was like, that looks like that's a cool thing to be doing?
I mean, my sophomore year is when I really started to get into the production aspect of like music. And so I knew how a board operated and like all of that stuff. And I knew about the different like processors, you could say, that like you go through with mixing music and all that stuff. And so at that point in my life, I had never really been into like a big scale studio before.
Right.
Um, so being able to walk in there and knowing at least a little bit about all the stuff that was going on in there and what they were doing, and just being able to sit by the board and listen to what they're talking about and actually understanding. And it was like a full circle moment when um last not last year, this year,
I was about
February,
to say we were just
went to
there again.
Nashville. Um when we went there again, and like I was able to use like record stuff using the board.
I'm gonna
That was
actually.
like a full circle moment, and it was
That's really cool.
crazy.
I'm actually gonna really quickly, Oriana, I'm gonna share my screen while you're talking because I found Blackbird's site and they have that Studio D. So these are the images. If you remember, that's the first board.
Hmm.
And I think we were also very lucky because we had Steve Marcantonio.
Oh, absolutely. And it was
Um,
such an honor just to be able to watch him work and
well,
mix. And
exactly. And I mean, he's been there every time we've been there and plans on from, he's just the best. But
hmm,
having somebody like him to sort of walk you through it all, I think was really great. Just from the standpoint of what we could be doing in a space like that. Trying to see if I can get to some of the
yeah.
other. That's funny. That's the little break room that they have. Anyway, but I just think it's interesting that you're I guess I feel good, I should say, that you felt like you were prepared
Hmm.
for whatever it might be that you needed to be able to have the best possible experience.
Yeah. And
Um,
like when he looked at me last time and he was like, "Do you want to run this session?" I didn't feel scared to run the session. I felt
that's
really
really good.
excited about the fact that I was able to use all this technology and get his feedback and stuff.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So then over the years, I mean, you've definitely been involved in helping to produce live. You've helped produce in studio. You've helped to design our studio spaces. It's kind of funny to me. So like people when they look on our website, I always get these interesting reactions because like, oh my gosh, look at all that stuff. And we got a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
But I do think that there is something kind of interesting about how we can how shall I say this? Give you the opportunity to kind of rebuild the space yourself. Like because we're sort of cobbled together, sometimes that drives me crazy. As you know, we've talked about this over the
Oh,
years,
yes.
and the fact that we're sort of held together by glue and duct tape and
I know, when we finally got all the studios all set up and ready to record for the
I
rest of the
know that's
year,
the worst
and I'm
part.
like, no.
We did this amazing upgrade. And that's kind of my point though. That upgrade was a whole bunch of you. We sat down and we thought, okay, what's the next step? Like what's the next evolution?
Hmm.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I have as you can, I'm not brag, I'm very lucky. I have a pretty nice workspace at my home here. But it's a different configuration because of the
Hmm.
nature of where it is and how much space I could devote to it and everything else. And I'm just fine where I am here is my point. But your ability to be able to decide, okay, well, let's do this or let's do that. Um, uh, you know, in real time, and so it wasn't theoretical. I kind of
Hmm.
like that you could go in and go, oh, let's put this here, let's put that there, let's do whatever.
Yeah.
What and we've talked over the years, we've bought different pieces of gear for different reasons and different other, situations. On balance, do you prefer live or studio work, and why?
I like a mixture of both. Doing
Okay.
live kind of keeps me on my toes. Um, it's fun to be able to set up for live work because it's like you're beginning from scratch. And then whenever a problem occurs, you kind of have to track back the problem. And I like fixing stuff like that. Um, Although it is stressful in the moment, it's fun for me to do that. But I also love the ability, because I'm definitely a perfectionist, to be able to
You
go
think
through
just a little bit?
just a little bit, um, to be able to go through and recording in the studio and being able to perfect it to the point that like it's perfect enough for me to be able to go through and continue to listen to it, as
Mhm.
a sometimes in live you don't really have that time to be able to perfect it.
Right, right. No, I can appreciate that. Does the program that you're going to go in, because I know of it and I know about it a bit, and you and I have talked about this, but like, are
Mhm.
you going to have to specialize? Are you looking more or are you going to get to be able to pick and choose? Like
Yeah,
how's that going to
so
work for you?
for the first 2 years we have like a set amount of classes that we need to take that like
Okay.
everyone takes all together. So we have to do 2 years of like a private lessons for two different instruments. One of
Oh,
them
okay.
has to be piano and another one has to be some others. So I'm hoping maybe to do drums or cello.
Oh,
Again, I need to talk to my counselor about that to see what I would be able to do and what they offer. And
okay.
then I think after your second year, you declare kind of the path that you want to go on. And for me, I'm going to go into like the studio recording and live kind of
Okay.
thing. I can't remember exactly the three different ones, but I know that that's for sure the one that I want to go down.
Sure. There's probably one for broadcast, I'm imagining too.
Probably, yeah.
Something of that nature.
And
That's a big, I
then
mean,
you're required to study a year abroad. It's like worked into your tuition to study a year abroad. So I'm probably going to be studying abroad in either Paris or Prague, which is cool.
oh, cool. There's some
Yeah.
very cool things that happen in those locations musically. That's really cool.
Hmm.
This just sounds, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
It's, I mean, and well, and the other thing too is, I mean, look, it's New York City, and
Hmm.
you know, detaching for a moment the issues that are going on there health-wise, which are getting under control and will be,
Absolutely.
but setting that aside for a minute, I mean, there are few cities on the planet that offer you the kinds of opportunities that New York does. Um,
Hmm.
you know, it's
And that's
also, I
what drawn
mean,
me to it.
sure,
And it's never
absolutely.
like quiet or anything like that. Like,
No,
and I
no.
don't like quiet little areas. I like it always to be like busy and always going.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Big cities. That's cool.
I like
Nothing.
big cities.
That's good. So, um, what do you like? I realize that this is a bit of a loaded question, and maybe one you can't even answer right now. But I guess I wanted to know, I suppose, in a closing, if you will, because I feel like I've already eaten up about 20 minutes of your time of your life now, plus well, heck, I've eaten up more than that of your life in the last 4 years. But um, if you could, and I'm not going to hold you to this. I'm
Hmm.
literally just curious. So we're in your last quarter of senior
Yes,
year, um, which I am both thrilled for you, and it also sucks, and we've talked
I
about that.
know. I wish we
But
were in class right now
I
recording
know,
this.
I know, I know. But 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 again, detaching from the circumstance of the closure and the quarantining and all that other stuff, do you have a final creative goal in mind for yourself? Big, small, doesn't really matter. I'm just curious if you've thought in terms of last high school creative thing that you want to get
Last high
done.
school creative thing?
Yeah, not to be so like definitive the
Yeah.
end of things. I'm just,
I mean, I wanted to write a song for the final songwriter night. And
which we are still gonna have.
thanks
I just
to the current circumstances, I have a song now. So
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good because we are still gonna have that event. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
working on how we're gonna do it, but we're not gonna not in the same way we've been doing workshops and we're still collaborating and we're still making stuff. It's we're not
Mhm.
gonna not have that event. That event needs to happen.
Yeah. And I guess I've kind of found my style of music that I like to create. So I like doing more of like the electronic backing tracks compared to like acoustic guitar or ukulele.
Hmm.
And I'll originally write my songs on ukulele, guitar, or piano, but then I'll just transfer it over and create a backing track for it and then record my vocals over top of it.
Okay.
So I wanted to take some of my older songs and go through and adapt them to the new style that I found and that I like. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. That makes sense. Now I do know that you just recently got into Logic.
I did. I downloaded the free 90-day thing.
Right, right, right. And I know that you'd been working for years in Pro Tools
Hmm.
and playing a little bit with Ableton and GarageBand and all that other stuff. When you were, I'm curious for the sake of future students in some respects. When you started playing with Logic, did it feel like it was impossibly difficult to get used to?
Oh no, absolutely not. I went into it. I didn't even have to use the little help tool that like pops up the first time that you open it. I was like, I
Right.
don't need this. So I made that go away because it was making it more complicated.
Sure.
And I just kind of explored, what is it called? The software, I
Sure.
guess you could
Yeah.
say. And explored like the different ways that I can mix stuff and like the different windows that I could pull up and all this
The
other stuff that I
user
would be able to
interface.
do in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was able to go through and within
But you
like
didn't like,
5 minutes feel comfortable enough to be able to like record stuff in there. And
okay, that's cool. And I mean,
yeah,
obviously it takes time to learn, like you get into the weeds and everything else.
yeah. And
But
I'm definitely going to get into the weeds when I start mixing the song that I
sure.
just finished. But
I'm excited. I know you sent me a couple little snippets, and it was actually kind of exciting just because I was glad to see you were writing, because I always like that and creating. But it was also just kind of cool in the sense that you had done I thought a really cool, just like immediately, like I feel like I got a message from you like in the early afternoon. Hey, I just put Logic on, and then I feel like it was like an hour or two later, and you started sending me like screenshots of things and a couple little snippets and stuff. And I thought, well, that's a really good sign. Like if you're
yeah,
able
and
to
it's fun to
start,
be able to play around on it as well and see the different things that it can do that's different from
sure,
Pro Tools and GarageBand
right.
and Ableton and stuff.
That's really cool. I'm just really excited for that. Okay,
Yeah.
I promise you this is the last question.
Yeah.
This is my I know, but I like talking to you. You know that.
Yeah.
And
I
you
have
have
time. I have
what's
nowhere to go.
there you go. There you go. No, but I'm curious, how would you, how do I say this? You're about to move on to a pretty prestigious program. You left out the parts about the scholarships, and you left out the parts about how exclusive it is and all that other stuff. Because they only take like what, 50 people, something like that?
Yeah, they think that this
Maybe
class is
less.
around like 45 to 50 people.
Yeah, it's not just a, hey, anybody can get into program, let alone school. And you not only got in, but they were like, and we want you to go here so much that here's a bunch of money to make sure you come to this very prestigious exclusive thing. My point is you're not going to brag. I'm going to brag for you. But I'm here is what I am wondering though. How do you feel? Let me see how to phrase this. Do you think it matters, the result that we're seeing with you? Do you think it matters that you started as a freshman? Do you think it would have mattered if you had started as a senior? Do you think it, or somewhere in between, or is it just, I
I
mean, your
don't
personality and
think
your work
so.
ethic? I don't know. I'm wondering.
I don't think so. I mean, it was nice to be able to go through the program for 4 years and like be able to get to know everyone and be able to work a whole bunch of events and get a whole bunch of stuff already under my belt so that when I walk in, I
Mm-hmm.
already know a decent amount. Like when they did the music technology webinar the other day,
Right.
and it was telling us about our program and all the stuff that we'd be learning. It was stuff that I'm excited to learn more about, but like I already knew the basics of, so I can go in already with like a whole bunch of stuff under my belt. But I feel like I've always had a strong connection to music. So
Sure.
if I would have joined my senior year, it still would have been something that I feel like probably would have been
Interesting.
still present in my life.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Oriana, I want to thank you for spending some time with me today.
Of course.
I wanted to I unfortunately we had booked a second guest. And I'm so sorry to Eric Luce that we ran out of time for him. But we'll try to get him on the next one. But Oriana, I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your afternoon and your thoughts.
Of
And
course.
I know you're going to obviously be on the other side of the country,
I
but
will.
I fully expect to get lots of updates and to
Absolutely.
stay
And
in
we could
touch.
do stuff like this too. Everyone knows how to use Zoom now.
There you go. Exactly. So there's some bright spots in it. But
There
this is
are.
wonderful. And I am genuinely really proud of you, and I'm excited for you. And I just cannot wait for whatever the next thing is that I know you're going to do awesome at. I'm
Thank
just
you.
really thrilled for you. So
Thank
with
you.
that, we're going to sign off. And I just wanted to once again thank everybody for tuning in, and check out arcadiacmas.com for all kinds of other stuff if you are interested. Please join us next week. We've got concerts coming, and we've got another podcast. Hopefully we'll have time for Mr. Luce. And, once again, I just wanted to say thanks again to Oriana for being such an awesome guest and an awesome student for the last 4 years. And we will see everybody next time, and have a great rest of your week.